Maybe if you're really into flowers, you might stop and notice what a pretty flower it is, or what kind it is, or how it was grown, or where it's grown. But let's think just for a second that suddenly, even with a flower, because it's part of creation also, it's just at a different level than us. Let's just for a second imagine that we could look at a flower, and anything in nature for that matter, and look at it as a spiritual energy, a spiritual being of its own. And just for a second perceive it that it also is just like us, a spiritual form moving through an evolution, and that it also is connected to creation. It's not just a material thing. Something really wonderful happens when you perceive anything in creation as a spiritual being on its own, and look at its wonderful self that it's doing, that it's creating its own life, and it's creating its own petals. It's having its own experience. It's not mad at you. It's not challenging you. It's not threatening you. These are things that we do with our physical senses. We learn in our difficult society to be prejudiced and hate and anger and these things, but all these things dissipate for the spiritual person. The person who can perceive anything in life as a spiritual entity, as a spiritual form first, hate, anger, and these things just vanish. They don't even ever come up. So Billy's in this fine matter world, experiencing the love of all of these spirits, and he's feeling more and more the connection to creation itself. And as the minutes go by, that feeling gets stronger and stronger, and he becomes clearer and more aware that the creation itself is the true perfection. What is happening here? Well, what really happened is that creation itself is a collection, it is an idea. I think you could describe the creation best as the creation is a spiritual energy that embodies the idea of perfect love, of perfect coming together of all the senses of all forms of creation. It is the creation that had the idea for the spiritual energy to begin the universe. And all these things that we know of, from all the solid matter, from different creatures, planets, and so forth, are all forms, spirit forms, created by the original idea of creation. So creation is a collection, then, of all forms of energy that have evolved up to their own perfection. Billy can start to sense in the fine matter world that there are entities who have gone beyond the physical, no longer need the material senses. Some of them have gone into what we think of as they've moved together and become collective consciousnesses together, where spirits then begin to come together in small groups of like sevens, and then they move on and come into larger groups. Then they totally lose awareness of the physical altogether. They are now contributing to the general welfare of the universe by creating thoughts and energy forms and so forth that help the universe itself actually work. Eventually, the human form will evolve into being part of the creational energy itself, and goes on as the universe is going through its cycles to help with the actual creation of the next one. So the creational energy, and this is where the concept of we are all gods or are sharing in God comes from, that it is true that we are all part of the creational energy, and that the creational spirit itself is just other energy forms before us who have, you might say, graduated through all these levels of accumulating wisdom. They have evolved to the point where they have, through wisdom, earned the right to be part of the creational force of the universe. And that's what we are all doing. We're just very young on the scale. So Billy gets more and more excited, and he is affirming and confirming all the things that he's been learning over the years about spirit, and it becomes very, very clear to him what life is really all about. Imagine having an experiencing like that. So in a Pleiadian world, most all of them have been able to experience that for themselves. It's not to the point where you just have to like stumble around and try to figure out what life is all about. Here you've had a full dose of it. Here you have clear understanding that life is physical and non-physical, that the universe is solid and its energy, coarse matter and fine matter. Here is proof that there is a creational force. Here is proof that there's a creational force that we are all connected to, that we are all sharing in, and we are all growing on our own paths. And here's proof that we are a spiritual being that is moving through a series of material lives to grow on our own. So what a wonderful experience he had. He got deeper and deeper into this where he was just at a loss for words. He's just rambling on about magnificent, wonderful feeling, the love of it all. And finally, it's getting to the point where he's starting to sense the creational energy itself more and more. He is so overcome with the loving, caring feeling that he's getting from it, he is just lost. He's so caught up in this. Well, unfortunately, it's about right here that he suddenly senses that it's over, that he's pulling back into the physical. The ship has re-entered out of the timelessness, out of the fine matter world, and is coming back into the physical, and he doesn't want to. He's trying to stay there. He's fighting it very hard, and he's saying, no, I don't want to come back. I don't want to go back into the material world. It's wonderful here. Oh, surely the Earthman must know how wonderful this is on this side. Everyone must learn, what it's like to be a spiritual self, and how could anyone ever, think a mean thought, and, if they know about the spiritual side. And he's going on and on like this, and suddenly he feels Semyasi is shaking him. And he kind of snaps to, and she's grinning, and she can tell what's going through his mind. And he just does not want to leave this state of mind and come back into the physical. And she comments to him, well, I understand, I know, we've all experienced the same thing, and this is your first time. And he's just babbling. He's going on and on about how wonderful it is. And she helps him out of the chair, and I can almost imagine what state you might be in at that point, having had an experience like that. You can even begin to see now a little bit why Billy's the way that he is. There are a lot of stories about Billy being a hermit and keeping to himself and not wanting to really see other people and talk about his life much anymore. And maybe now you can start to understand why. Billy is a very a unique person, both by his experiences and his thoughts, in that the things that he's experienced in his life make him quite different than the rest of us. It's very difficult to have lived and experienced and gained the knowledges that he has and come back into our 9-to-5 world of credit cards, freeways, cars, jobs, and things like that. So Billy keeps himself in an environment that's conducive to his thoughts. He's trying very hard to hang on to the feeling and the wonderment of all the things that he's experienced, and keeps himself in an environment like that. This is the reason that he and the people around him, which are learning from him, they try to protect their environment. They're not being cold or rude to other people. On the one hand, they're trying to protect their lifestyle so that they can also learn and gain experience from this and try to interface with the real world that's always knocking at their door. And that's not a real easy task to do. Okay, well, Billy's out of this, and Semyasi says, we have a few other things to do, and he says, now what's going on? And he's just kind of shaken up. And Ptah comes over to talk to him, and they get into a conversation, and Billy's commenting on the great experience that he's just had, because being a physical person, a normal human like the rest of us, he keeps forgetting all the time how telepathic they are, and they already know everything he's just experienced. They probably, tried to listen in or whatever they could afterwards, or if that was possible, to what happened to him. But Ptah is already sensing in Billy's mind the experience that he had, and he's just kind of nodding his head, and yes, I understand. And Billy's going on and on about how wonderful it was, how great it was, blah, 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 and they have to slow him down and calm him down a little bit. And Ptah calms him down, and they sit down and they have a lovely conversation for about, half an hour or so, which is in his notes. And it's basically all centered around reminding Billy the importance of his mission, how special he is, and Ptah's explaining to him how important it is that he understands that even though they seem to heap praise on him from time to time about how capable he is, they're trying to make him really understand and become aware of how special he is. That he was born into a physical family of a normal farmer's family in Switzerland, but he had a very special lifetime ahead of him. That he is a prophet of our times. He's not greater or better than any of the rest of us. A prophet is a person who helps us, who's inspired.